My name is Deira Jiménez-Balam from the Intercultural University of Quintana Roo, Mexico, and I will present parents' goals of emotional socialization among Mayas from Mexico and villagers from Brazil. I did this work with Lilia Cavalcanche and Bianca Reis Fonseca from the Federal University of Pará, Brazil. Mothers and fathers have expectations about the development of their children. They have what we call socialization goals that refers of the ideas about the abilities that children should acquire in a determinate period of their development. Parents also have goals of emotion socializations that are expectations that parents have about the emotional development of their children. For doing our research, we use the ecocultural model as theoretical approach. In this theoretical approach, cultural models express two central necessities among humans, relatedness and autonomy. There are a variety of trajectories of development where caretakers can emphasize a diversity of ways of autonomy and relatedness. Cross-cultural research has identified two prototypical cultural models in contrasting cultural contexts. Cultural model of autonomy is characteristics where parents promote a self-reliant individual. This cultural model is present in industrial societies, in Western cultures, where parents have a high level of education, and research states examples like German or USA societies. The other cultural models is the relatedness, where parents encourage a socially interdependent individual. This cultural model is present in small communities and rural environment with less education and where parents put a strong importance to relationships. However, little is known about how autonomy and relatedness are present in contexts with apparently similar characteristics. In this context, the aim of this work is to present and to compare the goals of emotion socialization among Yucatec parents from Mexico and parents from a district of agricultural village in Brazil. The research settings were Chacil, Quintana Roo, Mexico, a small community with 1,422 inhabitants, where they have an agricultural and recently migration to the north of the state of Quintana Roo, where is a high industry of touristic economy. We work with 30 mothers and 20 fathers from Chacil, Mexico. In Brazil, we worked with a district that conform village located in the APU, Pará, north of Brazil, where they is composed by 50 to 300 families. Here is characteristic with rural and agricultural economy. And the participants were 70 mothers and 20 fathers. Both locations or both communities are in a rural environment and are characterized by an agricultural origin. We find sociodemographic similarities. For example, they have similar age of fathers and mothers, stable relationships, and mothers' occupation in domestic labors was similar. Also, the number of children. We find differences in the work of fathers. In Brazil, fathers work in agricultural labors, and in Mexico, and among the Mayas, they work in a touristic sector. And Brazilian fathers spend a greater number of daily hours with their children, and Maya's fathers don't do this because they work in touristic sector, and they go out of their community. We use two instruments, a questionnaire of emotion socialization goals that has been used in different locations or samples in Brazil, and have three main questions. The first one asks to fathers what they want for what characteristics they want for their children when they grow up, what is necessary to gain these emotional characteristics, and what they can do to support or help their children in order to gain these emotional characteristics. We also use a scale of socialization goals in order to identify if there is a prevalence of a cultural model of relatedness or autonomous. Our analysis was characterized by qualitative content approach according to predefined categories, and a quantitative analysis that we use descriptive and inferential statistical techniques. The results are present considering the questions that conform the questionnaire. So the first one asks to fathers what emotional characteristics they want for their children when they grow up. We found that both Maya parents and Brazilian villagers expect goals associated with emotional expression, joy, and happiness. This means that all parents want that their children have the ability of express their emotions, for example, joy, and be happy when they grow up. But we also find differences. For Maya parents, they highlighted goals of self-control of emotions. For emotions like fear, sadness, but mainly anger. Anger is an emotion considered that children need to regulate it since early years, because among the Mayas, anger is an emotion that can interrupt relationships, and for them, the relationships are very important, and the harmony among them is also important. So children should learn to regulate emotions like anger since early years. For the other hand, Brazilian village encourage emotionality, where the establishment of intimacy, emotional bond, and relationships are very important. What conditions are necessary for the child to develop the desired characteristics? Well, all parents attribute to themselves the responsibility to promote these goals. Brazilian villagers emphasized conditions centered of the context. They think that it's very important the promotion of education among their children. For Maya parents, they mentioned a child-centered approach. And they expect that children be responsible for their emotional development since early years. This concords with the Maya literature that states that Maya parents promote since early years the autonomy and independence of their children. What Maya parents can do for the development of these qualities or characteristics. We observe that all parents consider education and orientation as ways of promoting that goals. For Brazilian village, education, talking, and explaining are very valued, and also to accompany, give love and affections. This is different for Mayas, who it was more important to give examples and advice, also support children's decisions and follow up. And in this case, we find that there is not a prevalence of some prototypical cultural model among the two contexts researched. This means that there is not a prevalence of independence or autonomous or relatedness in these two contexts. The socialization goals that the parents express reflect relational and autonomous elements that need to be understood considering local notions and reading specific reading practices. In conclusion, this research was carried out in two traditional contexts. Similarities and finer differences were identified, suggesting different ways of how cultural models of autonomy and relatedness frame emotional socialization goals that conduct specific pathways of emotional development. There are various ways in which autonomy and relatedness are present in the cultural models proposed in the ecocultural model. This research also contributes to broadening the knowledge and understanding of cultural models in addition to the prototypes typically documented in the literature. Thank you, and comments and questions are welcome.